everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to film a review video for A Year in the Maine Woods by Bernd Heinrich. This was the January pick for the Book Naturalists book club, and this was a really interesting book for me because I am from Maine. I've lived in Maine most of my life, born and raised and grew up in Maine, and went away for a little while and then came back. So it's really nice to read a nonfiction naturalist book about living in the wilderness in Maine, which is what this is. So Bernd Heinrich was born in 1940 in Germany, and he fled Germany as a very small child with his family after being refugees, sort of living in the woods in Germany. They arrived in Maine, and he had his childhood in sort of the western part of the state. And went to school at the University of Maine at Orono and completed some other schooling and is now a professor at the University of Vermont. He's written more than 20 books, and this particular book was written in the early 90s, published I think in 1994, and it details his year living in his remote Western Maine cabin, off the grid, no electricity, no running water, none of the modern amenities, and basically combining his research on different animals and plants and insects with his lifestyle of living in the wilderness. And it really was quite interesting. I think that he has a very approachable reading style. I do think that this book maybe went on a little bit too long in places. I mean, I think it did drag in certain places, but I did for the most part enjoy my time spent with this book. So it's divided up into seasons, and we follow Heinrich as he lives in this little cabin in the woods for the 4 seasons in Maine. And I thought that he does a really amazing job at describing sort of what he sees around himself every day. There's some really awesome stories about his interactions with different critters. He does a lot of research on ravens, and so there's a lot of descriptions of ravens and what ravens do and how ravens live and their sort of interactions with him. But he also describes his sort of random interactions with other wildlife in the Maine woods. He is also an ultra marathoner, so a lot of time he will, in order to clear his head or to sort of re-energize himself, he spends time doing really long runs in the wilderness. So that's interesting as well. I think if you're interested in the sort of lifestyle of living off the grid, this is a good book. And if you're interested in the nature writing, this is a good book. And if you're interested in like cute anecdotes about animals, this is a good book. So I have marked a few places in here that I wanted to draw your attention to, specifically because I think he does such a fantastic job of describing colors. Those are the 2 places that I marked for you to get an idea of his writing style. So early on in this book, he is describing, this book starts in summer. And so very early on, he's describing scenery. Looking out the window on this first day in early June, I see a sea of shining green. I had not realized how varied and vibrant green, the color of life, could be. The hue is darkest where you look through several layers of the recently unfurled maple leaves, and it shines with a yellowish tinge where the sun filters through. In the clearing around the cabin, the sea of green is more uniform than it is farther out in the forest, perhaps because of the vigorous stands of sugar maple around the cabin. The red maples at the edge of the clearing have a reddish tinge. They, like the ash, have not yet fully leafed out, but they already have flowered and are laden with the red seeds that color the whole tree. The spruce tree across the clearing is a dark, almost black green, as are most conifers, although this year's new conifer shoots are bright lime colored, some with a bluish tinge. And I just love that because one of my favorite times of year is in the spring. After this long winter time period, you start to see the green take over. And he comes back to this topic of when the green first comes back to the forest at the end of the book. And I want to share that with you as well. So another description that he has in here of colors I wanted to share with you. And this time it's in the end of winter, as opposed to the springtime, which he talked about in that first excerpt that I read to you. Sugaring time is when the nights are still cold and the days are sparkling and warm. That time is now. The sky toward the north on clear days is such a deep, gorgeous blue that I have to stop and stare, as if I have never seen anything like it. This blue is not the proverbial robin's egg blue. This is more like the hermit thrush's eggs, or even those of a catbird. Perhaps the color of sky is no different in the summer. But in the summer, your eyes confront a riot of color and hardly notice another bright one. For months now, there have only been grays and browns, dark, almost black greens, and an ocean of blinding white. Under the sun, the white of the snow is so dazzling that you actually look up into the sky to rest your eyes on something darker for relief from the brilliance. And both of those excerpts really, I mean, they just speak to me as a person who has lived in Maine for most of my life, because those colors are what I recognize as well as the primary colors of spring and late winter, when you've just, your eyes are so tired of the browns and the grays and the just blah colors, and you're finally starting to see some vibrancy. You're starting to see the approach of greens again. Nothing can lift your spirits higher than those first glimpses of green in the springtime. So I love the way that he describes color in this book. I will say that another one of my only complaints about this book was it wasn't very well edited. There were several editing mistakes I came across in this edition of the book. So I would have wished that this had been gone over more carefully by an editor. But that's not, that's just a minor detail. The overall writing of this book was very charming, and I really enjoyed my time spent with it. There, he talks about things like black flies and how they are a pain, but they do their part to keep the number of tourists down in the Maine Woods, which I thought was quite funny. It's something we joke about a lot here in Maine. He talks about activities of red squirrels and how smart they are, and how you interact with red squirrels if you have a home anywhere near any kind of growth at all, vegetation at all. You're gonna probably have interactions with red squirrels in Maine. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time spent with this book. I think he does a nice job of describing the woods and sort of the critters you're going to encounter. The other thing I wanted to point out in this particular edition is he does his own illustrations, and they are delightful. Like, he has a lot of different illustrations in this book, and I think he does a really fantastic job with that kind of work. And I guess that is one of his trademarks. So I really enjoyed that aspect of this book as well. So yeah, another great Book Naturalist book club read, A Year in the Maine Woods by Bernd Heinrich. Please let me know if you read along with us in this book for the month of January. Now, for the month of February, we will be reading A Bigger Picture, My Fight to Bring a New African Voice to the Climate Crisis by Vanessa Nakate. And so I'm very much looking forward to checking this one out. This is a new to me author, and I think will bring some new information to me about climate activism. So I'm very, very much looking forward to reading this in February. I hope you're all doing well and finding some great books to read, and I will talk to you later.